So welcome to our National Center for Computer Science Education February webinar. Tonight, we are going to be joined by the Coaching for Equity in CS project. We have a great panel for you a little bit later in the webinar. And we are going to make sure that we're having some discussion around how can you improve your CS teaching practices. And we're going to learn a little bit more about the Coaching for Equity in CS project. So I just did a reminder that we are recording this webinar. It will be posted to our YouTube channel. You're welcome to use the raise hand feature as well as use the chat and interact with myself, my colleagues and our panelists tonight. And you can use the subtitles and closed captions feature in Zoom if you need. Our agenda for tonight, we'll do some brief introductions, and then we will have an overview, an introduction to what is coaching. So in order to really fully get into this discussion, we have to make sure that we all are on the same basic understanding level of what coaching is and what the current coaching landscape is throughout the US. We'll then have a sharing of what our project is about. I say our because even though I'm the host of this webinar tonight, I am also a co-PI on the project. So we'll share a little bit about the Coaching for Equity in CS project and how you can get involved. There's multiple ways that you can be involved in our upcoming year. We will introduce our panelists and get started with a panel of coaches and coachees, so you can hear more about their experience in the project. And there will be time at the end for Q&A with the panelists. So be thinking about what questions you might have for coaches, what questions might you have for a coachee who has participated in the program before. And then we will close out the night. So with that, I'm going to say I am Pauline Lake. I recognize some of your faces and names from the forums that we have. I'm the Curriculum and PD Coordinator for the National Center for Computer Science Education. And as I mentioned, I'm also a co-PI on the Coaching for Equity in CS project. I'm joined tonight by Andrea.
Hi, everybody. My name is Andrea Wilson-Vasquez. Thanks so much for being here. I am just starting a new role, so I'm getting used to my title, but I'm Deputy Director for the ESEP Alliance, Expanding Computing Education Pathways Alliance, really working to help broaden participation in computer science by convening state leaders. And just previous to my role, I was the Director of Educator Training and School Partnerships with Code Savvy, a Minnesota-based nonprofit, doing a lot of work around preparing teachers in computer science ed. And that's how I got involved in this project, and am still able to wear that hat as I continue to support this work. So really glad to have you all here, and recognize as well the vast expertise that you all bring. So really hope that we can engage you in the chat and potentially out loud as well as you think of ideas, questions, or resources to share. So thanks again for being here.
Yes, and as Andrea said, we'd love to have you introduce yourself in the chat. I see some of the introductions are coming in already, so great to have you here. In addition to that, we're going to open up a quick poll, so please just take a few seconds here. There's 3 questions for you to complete, so tell us a little about who you are, what is your primary role in education, what grade levels do you primarily work with, and what CS courses do you have experience with? All right, it looks like most people have completed the poll. Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and close it. I know that was super quick. I'm going to end the poll, and I believe I can share the results with you so we can see who's in the room. So 70% of you are classroom teachers. Awesome. And 100% of you work in grades 9 through 12. And most of you, this is a multiple choice question, most of you have taught either and or CSP and CSA, or in addition to that, or that, an intro to CS and programming, which is non-AP. And there are some others. So if you have other courses that you're teaching that are computer science, feel free to drop them in the chat if there's particular ones you want to call out. So awesome. Thank you all for that. All right, and I'm going to toss it over to Andrea to talk a little bit about what is coaching.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Pauline. So what we'd like to do first is do a little bit of crowdsourcing. So it's always wonderful to hear from you about your experience or your kind of insight on what coaching might be. And so in the chat, and this is on the next slide too, in case you like to have a visual, in the chat, we'd love to have you share a word or two that comes to mind when you think about coaching. And it doesn't have to be coaching in terms of like educational coaching or work-related coaching. It could be coaching of any type. So I see guidance, sharing, discussing ideas, collaboration. Yeah, keep these ideas coming. These are great. All right, I see support, modeling, great ideas. Guidance, sports, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Guiding. Awesome. Yeah, cheerleader. You didn't know this about our project before, but we do have a theme song. And if you're lucky, maybe we'll play it at the end. And that cheerleader word is a big hint about what that song is. Awesome. Well, I want to just validate all of the words that you've put in the chat here and let you know that our team is very much along the same thought process. Oh yeah, Brad, I see your addition there of growth mindset and Randy facilitation. Yeah, appreciate those. So when our team was thinking about what is coaching, we thought of many of these same things, and we kind of framed our project around the idea that coaching is really based on trust and relationships. And to that end, it's a very ongoing kind of relationship, right? Because it's really based on supporting the teacher. It's very personalized and customized based on how to guide or support the teacher that the coach is working with. It's a really reflective process. So that's that growth mindset piece that was mentioned. It's of course goal-oriented. So Rebecca, thinking about your comment about it being, like sports kind of is a thing you think of when you think about coaching. That's very goal-oriented too, right? You kind of know where you're headed. We want our coaching to be the same, that we're coaching teachers towards a goal that they have, that it feels really like a partnership, like you've got somebody there supporting you, and that there are some specific outcomes, and whether those are really related to the student side of things, student engagement, learning. Our project is very focused in on equity, so all of our goals are equity related, or if it's more on the educator growth side and the ability of educators to kind of persevere through challenging situations, which we know happen often and frequently in our work. And I mentioned already that it's really built on that trust and respect, and very strengths-based. So really thinking about what does the teacher say that they need, and helping them to achieve those goals. These items that I've just mentioned all are adapted from a really helpful resource that's come in really handy for us as well from the Computer Science Teachers Association called the CS Coaching Toolkit. So I just dropped a link in the chat to that resource in case you find that handy at all. And I just will mention those last 3 bullets at the end, what coaching isn't. And we've tried to be very clear in our project and with our coaches and coachees that we're really not in coaching to be evaluative. Nobody is, trying to decide if you're a good teacher or a bad teacher, or going to report these results to an administrator. This is really a partnership and strengths-based. A coach definitely is not there to kind of be the expert, especially in every area. Many of our coaches are actually working with teachers who are teaching a variety of different CS classes. And so it would be impossible for the coaches to be an expert in every single thing. And that's part of the beauty of it. Because coaching is also a learning process, and coaching definitely isn't about having somebody come in and take over. So kind of keeping those things in mind as well as we frame what coaching is and coaching isn't. Why we decided to engage in a coaching framework is because we just kept seeing again and again that coaching is a really effective way of supporting professional development outcomes. So if you think about, if you attend a training, what is the most beneficial way or the most supportive way for a teacher to be able to implement what they see in those trainings? It's actually been found, and this is a study done by Digital Promise on the left, that coaching has yielded 99% of transfer to practice, at least in that study. So when teachers attended a PD and then received ongoing coaching and support, their transfer to practice was really effective. The other piece about why, and the real driving factor that helped us to identify coaching as an important platform, is based in the CAPE framework. This is a framework that was developed by Carol Fletcher out of UT Austin, and it's all about how to assess the equity of computer science education ecosystems. And what she identifies is that the very basis of how we establish equitable computer science education ecosystems is really by supporting the capacity for teaching and facilitating computer science education. And so we wanted to do what we could to support teachers, knowing that, you know, teachers have the ability to impact thousands of students over the course of our career. So supporting teachers really is an important endeavor. All right. On to this next piece. So this is just providing some recent stats for you. Each year, the Computer Science Teachers Association and the Caper Center put out a teacher landscape report. This is where they ask computer science teachers, and this year they started with pre-K through 12th grade computer science teachers, how things are going, what supports they feel like they need, what's going well, what they wish they had in order to be more successful, feel more successful. And this year, the landscape report was really focused on how to support furthering of equitable computer science education. And a couple of real big takeaways that have stuck in our project's mind as we've been working is that 35% of teachers reported that they lacked confidence in using culturally relevant pedagogy to support student learning. And this is computer science specific. So thinking about using an equity lens as we're thinking about how to work with teachers, we know that developing confidence in using culturally relevant pedagogy needs to be a real big focus. And the other thing that teachers identified is that they really wanted additional access to ongoing teacher professional development. And that just brought us back to that Digital Promise report that talked about how effective coaching is when paired with teacher professional development. I'll drop a link to that report in the chat too, in case you're interested in digging in at all to some of the other results. And I have one more kind of results slide that I want to share with you that came out of that report. And this one was really interesting to me. So teachers, again, were asked, what do you feel would be needed in order to help drive equitable computer science ed? And they identified a lot of things that they wanted to see increased. So they wanted more teacher community for computer science teachers. They wanted increased levels of support that was received by teachers. So thinking about from your administrators, from other teachers, from counselors. They wanted to increase confidence in being able to promote equitable CS at different levels, school, district, and state. And then there was some really big focus around identity inclusive content. And that included culturally responsive content as well. So kind of how to cover it within the CS classroom, how to increase confidence when delivering identity inclusive pedagogy, and how to really increase the awareness of different strategies related to identity inclusive pedagogy. The last two are really about how to help teachers continue to grow, right? So accessing that computer science professional development and supporting teachers with top challenges to teaching CS. And as our team was reading through this report, we just kept thinking, gosh, coaching can really help with a number, if not all, of these different challenges or these different need areas, which we thought was really important. So I want to just ask you to revisit your original definition of coaching and just kind of picture in your mind, what is one of these areas that you feel really stands out to you? And you could just drop a number in the chat. What is one of these areas as a teacher that you think, yeah, I really identify with that need. I could really use that support. Yeah, I see community. Yeah, the levels of support, number 2, for sure. Yeah, number 2. Number 8, that support with top challenges, community, for sure. Yeah, appreciate you weighing in on that. Another important piece that came out of this report was just thinking about some different data points. So I'm going to ask you to keep that teacher hat on that you wear, because I'm curious to know your thoughts on this. So teachers reported that they had different levels of a sense of agency in helping to shift students' perceptions of computer science. And this was another area that we thought, gosh, coaching could probably have a real impact in supporting teachers in knowing how to address some of these things. So what I'd like to ask is, looking at these 3 areas, the first one, number 1, helping students to believe that they can do well in CS. 81% of teacher respondents said that they felt that they had a sense of agency in shifting students' mindset about that. The second one, helping students to value learning computer science. 77% of teachers said that they felt a sense of agency in that one. And then the third one, only 61% of teachers said that they felt they had agency in motivating students who show low interest in CS. And we're curious to know, in our crowd here, in our group, which one of those 3 do you feel really stands out to you as an area you might be interested in having more support in if you were to engage in coaching?
Okay, that's good.
Maybe number 3, yeah. Yeah, lots of votes for number 3, for sure. Yeah, number 2. Number 3, yeah, absolutely. So we're going to flip back to our slide. Appreciate you weighing in. We're going to flip back to our slide and just see if we can connect these 2 things. So knowing that coaches can really help to connect teachers with the need areas on the left, which one do you think might be most helpful to you in trying to address that sense of agency, according to the 1, 2, or 3 that you just dropped in the chat? So if you said, I'm really interested in learning how to better motivate students who show low interest in CS, which one of those 8 might be most helpful to you? Just kind of curious. And this is a process that our coaches go through too, is thinking, okay, what might be a key lever I could use, or a key resource that I could help my teacher gain access to really support them with a specific goal. Yeah, I see some votes for 8, which is that supporting with top challenges, a couple of votes for 5, which is that confidence in identity inclusive pedagogy, a couple for 6, the awareness of identity inclusive pedagogy. Yeah, absolutely. So the last thing I'll say about this is these steps that we've just taken, we've breezed through them quickly, and really appreciate your willingness to engage with those and interact a little bit. But again, these are steps that our coaches might take in helping a teacher to arrive at specific goal statements, to decide what is something specific that you might like to work on, and how can I, as the coach, really help to connect you to the things that you'll need in order to be as successful as you can. Awesome. So now you've got a little bit of background on what coaching is. You've got a little bit of background on why we selected coaching as an effective platform. You've got some background on kind of some need areas that have been crowdsourced from teachers across the US, and how we might help to narrow in a focus on some specific things that a teacher might want to work on, and how a coach could kind of help them set some goals. So with that, I'm going to pass it now to Pauline to give you a little bit more of a specific view on what our project uses as our approach. And we'll give you some time to learn about that.
Thanks, Andrea. So the Coaching for Equity in CS project definitely is focusing on helping teachers build on the areas that you all identified. So the top areas that I saw in the chat were confidence, awareness, and support. Coming from those options that you had to choose from. So I am going to just show you here a video that summarizes the Coaching for Equity project, and then I'll share a little bit more of the specific details with you.
Public schools in the United States spend billions of dollars every year on professional development to help teachers meet the diverse needs of their students. A large percentage of this work has very limited results. Most professional development is delivered in a cookie-cutter way with no focus on the needs of individual teachers or classrooms. Traditionally, professional development in computer science has been less than a year long, and just as teachers are beginning to feel comfortable with the content, they lose their support network. As we work to create environments that are more conducive to engaging diverse individuals in computer science, we must adapt our approach to support and structure within the field. Our objective with Coaching for Equity in Computer Science is to establish a structure and model that can be used across the nation for educating and supporting more diverse teachers in the field.
Coaching has been demonstrated to be one of the most effective professional development models, where a teacher can set specific goals that are very related to what they want and what the needs of their students in their classroom. And then they can receive specific just-in-time professional development and support in order to achieve implementing milestones along the way towards achieving their goal.
Our model is a highly individualized approach with a year-long 4-cycle coaching progression, complete with follow-up support to ensure success for all of our CS teachers. Each of our coaches will be trained and then work with 2 teachers to allow for a very tailored approach.
So we want to provide a network for teachers who can come together and talk some of those things through and grow together and support each other and also hold each other accountable, especially as we're looking about implementing equitable teaching practices and asking and discussing some of those tough questions as we're thinking about how we really do reach all of our students and make sure that we're holding our students and ourselves to a level where we know that we're engaging, welcoming, and validating all of our students.
The Coaching for Equity in CS project is supported by a 3-year NSF grant and is focused on high school CS education. 2 different coaching programs will be developed to help expand access to CS coaching as a part of this project. Our goal is to support a total of 72 teachers and train 36 coaches through these 2 programs. Those interested in participating should visit cscoachingforequity.org to learn more and complete our interest form. Please help us spread the word. Public schools in the United
Okay. All right. Thank you, Andrea, for sharing the link to our website in the chat. So I just want to call attention to a few things that were said in the video that will help us just keep this at the forefront of our mind going into the panel that we're going to have tonight. So this is a National Science Foundation grant. It's a 3-year grant. We are currently finishing up year 1 of the grant, the first year. I'm going into year 2. We're in the high school strand, so we're focused on high school CS teaching. And there are 2 coaching programs. So there's one for Minnesota, which is through Code Savvy, and then a national program through the National Center for Computer Science Education. And as mentioned, we are aiming for 36 coaches and 72 teachers going into this coming year. So this is where we really are hoping that you will consider applying and being involved. And if it's not for you, then at least we would love for you to share and spread the word and encourage others that you think would benefit from the programs to sign up. And I also wanted to highlight sort of our coaching cycles. So in the video, you heard that we have 4 coaching cycles, and in each of those cycles in a year span, there's sort of this process of thinking about, first you're planning with your coach, then you are implementing that plan, and then you reflect on what happened. So that's what the overview of the coaching cycle is like. At the same time that the teachers are going through, or the coachees, we call them, are going through the coaching program, our coaches are receiving PD as well. So it was shown in the video, but I want to show it again here. Our model that we're using. So in the spring and summer is when we are recruiting and selecting teachers. So right now we are doing that. And then we will start with a pre-coaching setup late in the summer. The coaches themselves go through a coach PD and some training to help prepare them to become coaches. So in order to be a coach, you don't need to have been a coach in a prior year. You can come and we will train you to be a coach. And then you get ongoing professional development throughout the year, and community throughout the year as you are participating in monthly meetings with the other coaches. But then you're also having the coach and teacher or coach and coachee meetings that are happening, and they're working together for completing those 4 cycles throughout the academic year. And then there's a bookend by meetings where there's a pre-coaching meeting where you get to know each other and set your goals for the year. And then at the end, you are having this post-coaching closeout to kind of reflect and think about how things went over the course of the academic year. And we are going to have a panel in just a bit here that you'll get to hear directly from the coaches and the coachees about their experience. I just want to make sure that you all again are aware of how to get involved, and we'll share this again at the end of the webinar too. So on our website, we have an explanation of what it means to be a coach versus being a coachee. I will sum up that coach, we do want you to have at least 3 years of CS teaching experience. If you have at least 3 years of CS teaching experience, we would love to have you go through the training to become a coach. And if you have less than 3 years, that is for the coachees. So less than 3 years of CS teaching experience. There are stipends available for both the coaches and the coachees. Again, we're funded by the National Science Foundation. There's a research component to our project. So participating in the project and completing the research components with us will help you earn the stipend. Coaches are expected to work with up to 2 coachees throughout the year. And then for the coachee, it's a one-to-one relationship that they're having with their coach, and they get to work with them for the entire academic year. So with that, we are going to have our coachee panel, and I believe Andrea is going to help me with making sure we can get everybody spotlighted. While she's doing that, I just want to introduce in an overview way, because they're going to introduce themselves in detail, but our panelists. And again, at the end of the panel, there's going to be an opportunity for you all to ask questions. So please, be thinking of questions that you might want to ask, and we will make sure that the panelists get a chance to answer those.
Awesome. Thanks, Pauline. That's really helpful information about our project. And I get the exciting task of actually passing the mic over to each of our panelists to give you an introduction of who they are and a little bit more about how they're involved in this project. So kind of keep their names handy. You're, again, welcome to ask them questions directly. We'll also have kind of panel questions that we'll ask both of the coaches and the coachees. You can hear from both sides, but feel free to drop some additional questions in the chat, and we'll make sure that those get some airtime as well. So I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic over to Michelle, and then we will hear from each of our panelists. Just a quick introduction, who you are and kind of what your role is, both in this project and more broadly in your role in education.
Hi, thanks, Andrea, and thanks, Pauline. I'm Michelle Lombardi. I am a middle school and upper school computer science teacher at the Ellis School in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. In this project, I am a coach through the National Coach Program because I'm obviously not in Minnesota. And I became a coach because, like I think a lot of computer science teachers, I started out as a math teacher. A lot of us started out in other areas. And sort of were told to teach computer science, and I totally love it, but I think that's just because I had great mentors along the way, and I really sort of wanted to give back in that capacity.
Thanks so much, Michelle. We'll pass it over to Melissa.
Hi, I'm Melissa Johnson, and I'm a coachee in the program, and I teach computer science and math at Mishawaka High School in Mishawaka, Indiana, and I'm not in Minnesota either. I am pretty new to teaching computer science, obviously, as a coachee, And COVID was the beginning of my teaching career in computer science. I've been a teacher for like 16 years and I don't know what I'm doing. So I need as much help as I can get. I've been fast learning content and all kinds of things, but I just look for support, and I'm super excited to have Michelle and have a sounding board of someone who like knows what they're doing so that they can help me feel a little more confident. Yeah.
Love that. Thanks so much, Melissa. Appreciate you being here and your involvement in our project. So we'll pass it next to Brad to introduce himself.
Howdy, folks. I'm Brad Haugen. I'm one of the code savvy coaches on this side of the monitor. Very excited to be a part of this. I know we're kind of going to talk about this later on, but when I was contacted last year about the possibility of being a coach, the first thing I said was, that's what I missed when I dove into it. So kind of as Melissa was talking about, that need for, hey, I just need some help. And to be on this side of it and be able to help people out is awesome.
Great. Thanks, Brad. We're really glad you're involved in the project. And we'll pass it to Kyle.
Yeah, I'm in Minnesota and I've been teaching computer science for 25 or 26 years. Had a variety of different experiences with computer science. Had CSP for the last 7 years, and I'm trying to teach CSA now and learning that the kids are ahead of me in their Java understanding. So my biggest reason, I guess, for joining this is this equity piece and trying to create a more diverse classroom than I've had in the past. And that's been on my mind, and I've talked with a lot of different people. So it really sparked my interest when I heard about that or was reading about that.
Yeah, thanks so much, Kyle. That's really helpful perspective too. And knowing that you come to the project with a lot of CS experience and really wanting to focus in on that equity piece is important. Awesome. Well, I now will pass it off to Pauline to help us engage with our first set of questions. So again, as participants, both on screen and kind of in the chat here, feel free to drop any additional questions that come up in that chat, and we'll make sure that those get some airtime. So I'll pass it to you, Pauline.
Thanks, Andrea. And again, thank you to our coaches and coachees panelists for being here. So my first question that I'd love to have us dive into is for the coachees. Specifically, you've been working toward a goal this year, and as you're participating in your specific coaching program. And I would love to know, have you talked a little bit about what is your goal that you set for this year? And how is your coach helping you to achieve that goal?
Like my kids, I forget to unmute. So Brad and I have had some similar connections with people, and so it was an easy conversation to first start to talk to Brad. And in our conversations, I kind of expressed my desire to try and build a more diverse classroom. So that's definitely kind of where his and my discussions have centered around, and in talking, him giving me some suggestions and just talking about some suggestions about what I can do locally, who I can talk to, recruiting kids, what avenue do we want to go, or what avenue should I look down that I maybe haven't looked down before to try and reach out to some kids that haven't necessarily looked at CS as an option for them to take. And that's been what we've talked quite a bit about.
It's not my official goal, but our program at my high school is just beginning. So I have very few kids. So it's also kind of a secondary thing in my head all the time, how to recruit, what can I do? Yeah. But my official goal is using inquiry to facilitate student learning and design inclusive learning experiences. So the training that I received is like, let's sit down and read these self-paced student lessons and then you go through these, okay, now your students can do them too. And it doesn't have a lot of, like when I teach math, I have examples and diagrams and all of these experiences for the kids, and I just don't have those things. And so learning how to ask computer science kids questions is super important. And also trying to design activities that everybody can, that's attainable, but also it's not just looking at the computer screen constantly. So Michelle helps me with those things all the time.
Muted myself. I think those are both great goals. And I think it's no surprise in the coaching project, we've had both coaches and coachees this past year talk initially about recruitment and diversity. And then once you get into the project, you start to really see that we are trying to go deeper than that when we're talking about equity, and we're talking about what are the activities that you're doing, right? As Melissa was saying, what are the practices that you are doing as a coachee or as a teacher in the classroom that will help you? And those practices that you're bringing into the classroom are going to then kind of in turn help you and in the recruitment process, so to speak. So really focusing in, going deeper into and exploring what is equity, going beyond just the surface level. That's my way of saying it, the surface level of recruitment, and thinking about what truly is happening in your classroom and what are you doing as far as your teaching practices. So my next question is going to be for all of the panelists. Don't all fight over who answers first. It's okay. But can you tell us about or describe how participating in the project has helped you build your confidence in or knowledge of using these equitable CS teaching practices that you've been learning about?
I'll go. I think the best thing for me to come out of it was, if I want to talk math, I have 5 people at my high school. I have 9 people, middle school, high school. So I have a ton of people to talk to. But when I talk computer science, and it's very different than math instruction it's not a required class. So the kids don't always look at it. So having that conversation with Brad just kind of flushed out some thoughts I had that helped me to think deeper about, like, maybe what's going on in my class and maybe what's going on outside of my class that can build a more inclusive classroom. I don't feel that my classroom isn't inclusive, but you never really know, like, what does it look like from the outside? So it was interesting. We did survey the ladies in my school, or the females in my school, and it was interesting to get the feedback from that on the perspective that they have somewhat about themselves in computer science, and then somewhat just when they hear computer science, what does that mean to them? So having that has been definitely gave me some different perspectives to look at as I go forward.
I have 2 computer science currently. One is 12 boys, and the other is 6 kids, and one of them is a girl. And so at the beginning of the school year, I was positive I could get more computer science kids, and I went down to study hall and talked to those kids and talked to the girls in there. Yeah, none of them really wanted to come hang out with me. But then we had recently a 8th grade like showcase for the high school, and I had a student, my female, come, and one of my African-American students who's also in my program come, and then someone who's in the intro program who's a good friend of mine's family. She's awesome, and she's going to be in my program next year. Had them come so that they could kind of talk to the 8th graders. And then I just walked around and told people as I saw them, hey, young lady, you should be in computer science next year. You should be in computer. And they just thought I was crazy, but we'll see how it worked. So I have no idea what question I was supposed to be answering, but Kyle made me think of all of those things. So that's what I have to say for the moment.
So say, Melissa, I think, yeah, building confidence or knowledge of using equitable teaching practices. And it sounds like you're building your confidence and being able to say, hey, you belong in my classroom, which is great.
I try to tell everyone whether they believe it or not, but it is what it is. As for confidence in teaching, I'm scared to try new things. I'm scared to deviate from the specific training that I've had where I've seen these lessons one time. But Michelle helps me find things, helps me talk through them, make sure I kind of understand the main concepts of things. And my students know that I'm learning. Sometimes they forget. But just being able to have someone to bounce ideas off of is just huge. It's because you're right. There's 15 math teachers in my school. I am the only current computer science teacher. So I have an information tech teacher, but she swears that's not computer science. So yeah, just having someone who knows about computer science to say, hey, I have this crazy idea. And they actually kind of understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and I think, Melissa, you do a great job of like already having great ideas and strategies that are going to work. And I think that's where it's built my confidence and hopefully your confidence. But, you know, the teachers in this room, you're probably already doing things that get you closer to that goal of an equitable classroom. But this just gives us a chance to talk about them more intentionally and do them maybe with a little bit more structure. I know that that's sort of how it's changed my teaching just in the process of talking about it with Melissa and seeing like how, you know, how can we get this student engaged, or, you know, how can we get students interacting with the code more, and those intentional things that we try, those intentional instructional strategies, has helped my teaching as well as a coach.
Yeah, and also encouraging more women's. I have tried with few different suggestions in my classroom. As being a computer science high school teacher, I can see like I'm a lot of boys in my classroom, very less girls. So sometimes I need to provide some role models of the women in the CS serving industry, and also like even creating a supportive community. Those women in the computer science often face isolations and feel like they don't belong to this industry kind of. And also like I mean sometimes I need to provide access to the resources for them to feel more comfortable why and how to manage those, and highlighting the female achievements. That could be the great click for them to celebrate their accomplishments by choosing or showcasing the female role models and success stories that they can inspire more women to pursue the CS career. So overall, encouragement worked actually in my perspective to pursue CS for the women, especially in the multi-phased approach that addresses structural barriers, unconscious biases, and the cultural attitudes. And that will this is my aim that could eventually close the gap and promote the gender diversity in the field, hopefully.
Thank you for that. I know Brad wants to jump in, but before you jump in, Brad, I just want to point out, you know, everyone so far, even our audience and participating, is really talking about more female engagement and supporting females. And that is one of our focal points. So in this project, we have 3 student focal populations. We have female identifying students, English language learners, and students with disabilities. And at the National Center for Computer Science Education, we also have the Inclusive CS Teaching site. So when we are talking about supporting female students, many of those equitable teaching practices and those strategies that were just mentioned, right, are very important for supporting females in students, female identifying students in your CS classroom. And so I just dropped a link into the chat that has documented just some of those findings and strategies. And that's really what we're hoping that our coaches and coachees are exploring. but again, we have the 3 focal populations for the project, and we encourage our coach and coachee pairs to pick one of those 3 focal populations to focus on. So Brad, what about you?
What I'm going to talk about is back to last summer, the coaching PD that all the coaches went through. And you mentioned the focal populations. We were able to do breakout sessions and learn more about the focal populations that we as coaches, needed to learn more about in order to be better able to help our coachees. And again, after that, it's the conversation. So it's not just the conversations I have with Kyle, but our academic year PD that the coaches do. One of the best things that we do is get in a breakout room and talk about strategies and how it works in our situations. I know somebody put in the chat, how do you get it to work in this real world situation? Well, I always fought with my administration when I was teaching because they'd always say, well, you got to do it this way because this author said so. And it's like, they don't know my kids. How do I customize it to my kids? And that's the great thing when I talk to Kyle in our meetings or when I talk to any of the other coaches in the academic year PD, it's always learning more about different situations so we can do our best to bring it to our classroom.
Thanks, all. I'm hoping we can maybe continue this conversation by thinking about overall. I know we've been talking more specifically about confidence, which was one of the areas that attendees identified earlier for need. But thinking about the project overall, is there something or just something, anything, one thing in particular about participating in the project this past year that has surprised you?
I guess it's not necessarily my classroom per se, so it's not directly instruction. But I think when Brad and I were talking about, we did this survey, reading those survey results was definitely, I don't know if I want to say eye-opening, but sometimes reaffirming of some of the things maybe some beliefs I had. And then sometimes it's like what I believed maybe was true. I didn't know but it was like, no, that actually isn't the perspective. It was more in mine. It was surveying the females. So they didn't even look at computer science as something that was for them. So it was interesting just to see the perspectives. And I guess I talk to kids a lot, but sometimes it's hard to get the answers to those questions because when you talk to them, they're around other kids and they don't give you maybe the straight answer or the answer that they want to give you. They just give the answer that their friends, maybe they would expect their friends to want them to say. The little difference perspective that way. So I definitely took that to heart to see like what instructionally, how that would maybe change the engagement in my room to change the conversations that we would have or make it a more environment that they would have conversations that they would enjoy in their room. So yeah, it's kind of twofold there where that came from.
So a little more background into the survey. One of the cool things we did is we separated the survey into the females that did take a computer science class and the ones that didn't. So just to actually see the perspective of the females that were in computer science classes. And I think all but one of them was like, yeah, computer science, let's go. And there's one that was like, yeah, I tried it. But, just to see the positivity of the people that did try it versus, okay, here's kind of the rationales for why, I haven't attempted computer science yet. So I thought that was pretty cool. But my big, not surprise, but more, I don't even know what you'd call it, more awesomeness about the project is you heard Kyle talk about how many years of experience he has in computer science. So his eagerness to say, hey, I'm still missing something here. There's something else that can make me better. So I think that's been the best part of the project for me is, understanding that Kyle knows so much more about computer science than I do, but yet, he's still trying to dig for answers and wants the help. So the eagerness of both of my coachees to be coached and to try to do things better, that's been the coolest part of it for me.
The really cool part for me, and I mean, I'm not surprised by it, but I'm really excited that it was true, was, you know, like we keep talking about, having somebody to bounce ideas off of. I don't know if Melissa knows this, but like now when I'm planning my own lessons, I am so much more reflective, and I kind of think like, you know, I get to be outside of myself and be like, you know, how would I tell Melissa to plan this? Or like, if somebody was, you know, if she was watching me, what would I want her to see? And so that sort of informs our conversations later, but it's really made me a more reflective and intentional teacher. So I'm, for selfish reasons and for my students, like very excited about the way it's impacted my teaching and my practice as well.
I wish I could watch you teach. I think it would be helpful. Instead of just always processing how I teach, but that's a whole nother story. What am I surprised about? That my students aren't scared when the video camera's on. That's the biggest thing. One of them today said, I really like it when you record us. So, because it makes me focus more. Like, okay, thanks.
That's great. Yeah, I definitely, I'm put it in the chat, but like the idea of modeling is so important, right? And I think I'm kind of in a similar boat as Brad, right? As saying that and thinking about just how going into the project, from being on the project team and thinking about, well, this is supposed to be the coach kind of helping and imparting knowledge onto the coachee. And then as a team member, I'm supposed to be imparting knowledge on the coach, right? And thinking of like this, like knowledge is being transferred kind of down in a way, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but in my head visually that's what I'm thinking of. But really just thinking about how knowledge is going all around in all different ways, right? You have the coachee helping the coach, you have the coachee helping the team, you have the coach helping the team, right? I am just in awe sometimes of how awesome the coaches are, and hearing how well the coachees are speaking of the coaches too, and how they're doing, and getting great ideas from the coaches, right? What we just, just thinking about everything you all have been saying, and like, how can we make this program better for next year, right? Because thinking about this is the first year, next year's year 2, there's always room for improvement. It's a research project. What can we do to improve it and make it even better for next year, right? And I can't express enough to the panelists, right, for this first year, right? You all are sort of our trailblazers in making this happen in the first year. And it's been incredible kind of watching you all participate in making our ideas come alive, right, for what we had for this project. You are the project for us, which is awesome. So that leads me to my next question for you all. It's for the coaches in particular. So a part of the coaching project, and Brad mentioned it a little while ago, is this academic year PD. So coachees, again, while your coach is coaching you and helping you and planning your cycles with you, they are also doing PD at the same time. And the coaches are meeting monthly, having asynchronous discussions with one another, and really just looking for opportunities to be able to share ideas and resources so they can benefit and be their best selves in order to bring information back to you and support you the best that they can. So thinking about this academic year PD that I'm talking about, for the coaches, how is participating in this academic year PD in our coach community impacted you, if at all?
I mean, I already talked about it a little bit. Like I said, it's made me a much more reflective teacher. And, I know we've been talking a lot about how computer science teachers sort of are a little bit isolated, but the things I'm learning are definitely things that I can take back to my team at school, my team not including any computer science teachers because I'm the only one. But, like I've said, it's really impacted all aspects of my teaching life, in terms of how I look at things and how I view things. And yes, I guess that's all related to the just-in-time PD that we talk about. In terms of like things that I talk about with Melissa, my coachee, she might try something new and I go, wow, I haven't done a game in a while. And then like I play a game and, put my own spin on it. So it's just really sort of one more step in that iterative design process as I keep trying to make lessons different and better and more inclusive and more engaging, and how all of us as teachers across the board, no matter your content area, are trying to do that as well.
And I think Michelle's description is perfect. She tiptoed around the word, and I think the word is growth. I think us as coaches, throughout this whole time, we're learning from each other. We're growing in our confidence. We're trying to grow in our knowledge. And I think that's been the biggest piece for me throughout the year is it wasn't as a coach just, shove you off and say, best of luck, we'll see how it goes. For the core team to have these meetings every month and, just trying to keep bringing us together in order to talk about things and really get to the nuts and bolts of how we can help people, and I think that's how I've grown as a coach throughout this. And a lot of it goes to those meetings.
So Michelle mentioned this, but I'll open this up to either Michelle or Brad to answer. Just-in-time PD for the coaches. What is that? What does it consist of? And how are you using that with your coachees? For those who don't have a context of what that is and what you're referring to.
I'll take that one, Michelle. You don't have to. So just-in-time PD is part of our academic meeting schedule, year meeting schedule that we have, where the core team sits down and tries to come up with, based on the exit tickets from the last meetings, what are some focuses or what are some areas of concern that the coaches do have, and how can we best help them? So what we try to do is pick a topic, do our best to research and put together, just a little chunk of learning. Again, we meet for about an hour and then have another half an hour of Q&A time that people can stay on. And we call them our office hours, so people can ask more questions if need be. But we really just try to focus on one topic, kind of that continuous learning piece where we're just trying to make everybody just a little bit better each time. And the thing that I said before is the growth is, we try to push people this much, but it always seems like through the discussions we follow it up with, we're growing even more. So that's just my perspective. Michelle, you can give your input as well.
No, you did a great job, Brad. But just to answer Melissa's question in the chat, we're talking a lot about, how to be the best coach we can be. But for example, our most recent just-in-time PD was about goal setting. So, Melissa mentioned our year goal at the beginning, which is to design inclusive learning experiences and to use student inquiry. So along the way, each cycle, which Pauline and Andrea showed us sort of the diagram of the year with each of those 4 cycles, we set a smaller objective or sub goal sort of to help us take a baby step towards that bigger goal. So we talked about how to set SMART goals last time.
Like I say, I love how that came full circle, because the first question I had asked was, what was your goal for this year to the coachees? So that was great. In the time that we have left for this panel, before we get into the Q&A part, I want to give each of you the opportunity to say just whatever is on your heart or mind, but then to also maybe just say, tell us what you would say to a teacher who is thinking about participating either as a coach or a coachee, but isn't quite sure if it's for them. So each of you gets a little bit of time here.
I think,
I would,
oh, go ahead.
go
Mark,
ahead.
or
No,
Kyle.
Melissa, go ahead.
I think that it's pretty intimidating as a teacher to sometimes admit that you are not the best at your job. And it's also intimidating to tell other people who have more experience than you that you need help, because teachers like to be, you know, the boss. They like to know what they're doing, and they like to impart that on other people. And so just being humble enough to realize that, you know, there's a lot I don't know, and there's a lot I need help with. And you just being a new computer science teacher in itself right now is huge, and it's a big change for a lot of us. So I think that it's not as scary as it seems, and it's really helpful. And I'm really grateful that I have this opportunity, and I wish it lasted like 5 years.
Melissa, I'll tell you the best piece of advice I got, and I don't remember when it was sometime in my teaching career, and it's been the best thing in my computer science class. I almost start off the first lesson, the first class with, I don't know, but I'll help you figure out, because it's going to happen a lot. I've taught for 27 years, and it's still times in math that I feel the most comfortable with. Well, I'll say, I don't know, but let's figure it out. So that's very freeing when you can tell the kids in front of them and stand in front of that room that you don't know it all, because you think you know, they're walking in and they expect you to know it all. And I think once they know that you're not going to be like this know-it-all type person, it makes your classroom environment just awesome to me, because it's like everybody's learning, not just the kids. But as far as the participation in this, I would highly endorse anybody, if you're a new teacher or if you're an old guy like me, to try it. I mean, I think when you're in teaching, you're just by nature, you're a lifelong learner. And I think the moment that you think you know everything about how to get people into your room and teach people and reach kids in your room is the is the point where you have crossed the threshold of you don't know anything anymore, because you just don't. I mean, the kids change, the curriculum changes, everything changes. So I think it's great. I love having the conversations. I love having somebody that's in a similar field to talk to, which is great. You can walk around a school and see English, you can see math, you can see tech ed, but they're all different, and you can get something from all of them. But having that person that has stood in front of the kids and talked computer science with them before, I think they have a unique perspective that you can share with each other, I think, and that's been very rewarding.
What I have down here, when I was thinking about this, is there's two sides to the coin. If you want to be a coach, it's because you want to be helpful. You know, all of us on the staff, we want to help people out, you know. So if you have that on your heart, and you know, you're feeling like there's a way for you to give back to the computer science education community, you know, be a coach, be helpful. And to reach out to the coachees and the teachers that need the help, hey, you're going to be the beneficiaries of that helpfulness. So, you know, I suggest anybody who's struggling and, you know, who's feeling like they're fighting that battle by themselves, you know, because as Melissa talked about, you know, you're on an island sometimes as a computer science teacher. So open yourself up and take advantage of that helpfulness.
Yeah, to sort of to piggyback on all of you, you guys all have amazing advice, but you know, what really solidifies it for me is that sense of community, because so many of us are the only computer science teacher, and that's not a secret. But I have over the years tried to be, you know, get into the CS teacher community from all different aspects. You know, I'm a member of the local CSTA, member of the national CSTA. I'm on the conference committee. I've, you know, participated in like online discussion boards, all sorts of things. This has been the most consistent, the most impactful am I teaching, the most beneficial in terms of having that, you know, consistent person to talk to. So if you're looking for that sense of community, and, you know, like Brad and Kyle were saying, like somebody else who's in your field, you know, this is a great way from either aspect, the coach or the coachee, to sort of have that sounding board and that way to talk things out that maybe we don't get a chance to in other venues.
One other thing I'd like to add, and I've been a part of a couple of different things Pauline's been part of. And what I found is coach, coachee, mentor, mentee, whichever program it is. What I've appreciated about all the computer science parts with mobile CSP, CSA, all that, when I've been involved with these types of is I've never felt like the coach has been this, I am the coach, follow my lead. It's been a shared, let's talk about this. How can we help? How can you help me? And almost always you'll hear kind of what Brad and Michelle have both said. Hey, I've taken some stuff out of this too. Just because I'm coaching you doesn't mean that there's nothing in it for me either. So I think that it's definitely a two-way street. I think there's a lot of growth professionally for everybody that's involved with it. It's not just how can we help you in one classroom, it's how can we help each other. And I think that kind of snowballs itself to kind of build more and more off of.
Absolutely. Thank you all. You know, it's just in listening to you all and thinking about the responses tonight, I realized, you know, we didn't really talk about how you all became a coachee pair. So I don't know, Andrea, would you like to come onto the panel and explain that process?
Absolutely. Well, I can for sure explain it from the code savvy side, knowing that we had just some slight differences in how our projects matched coaches and coachees up. But by and large, our biggest goals were to match up coaches and coachees who had kind of some similarities in terms of their either desired goals and areas of expertise, or kind of interest areas in specific student demographic populations, thinking about our equity focus. And sort of the third layer that Minnesota coaches and coachees were considered by is first off, proximity, because we did want to have the possibility of coaches and coachees meeting face-to-face at some point, if possible. And there was also a consideration for the fact that some of our coaches and coachees actually worked at the same school. And in some cases, that pairing seemed to be not only the most kind of logical, but also thinking about that community and that support that you all have mentioned. We really wanted to make sure that if we could foster that, if we could really create that network or even build on that network in a school or a geographic region, we wanted to try to lean into that. So those were some of the layers, kind of both generally and then specific on the Minnesota side. Pauline, what else would you add as you and I really partnered on that and you were on the national side?
Yeah, on the national side, you know, like we had Michelle and Melissa, they are not in the same state, right? We tried as much as possible to pair coachees that were in the general region or close to one another as much as possible. But that wasn't always the case. And like I said, in Michelle and Melissa's case, they are in completely different states. So really looking at their backgrounds and knowing what their interests were, similar to Code Savvy, thinking about the experience that they have had in the curriculum that they had used before. I don't know offhand if that was true for Michelle and Melissa, if you all had a similar curriculum that you had used, but I do know that we have other coachee pairs that had similar curricula they were using, and they were able to relate on that note. during the application process, the coachee was asked to indicate one of the 3 student focal populations, at least one that they wanted to focus on. And if they highlighted, in most cases, if they highlighted one that was a strength of the coach that we were working with, then that's how we also considered pairing them together. And I see Melissa nodding her head, so I might even say here and defer, because I would love to know. I don't know that I know offhand, and I'd have to cheat. What was some commonalities that you all identified after your pre-coach meeting? Was there anything that really stood out when you first met one another, or was it sort of like we have nothing in common? I hope that didn't happen.
I wouldn't say that we have nothing in common. I think, I don't know if this was intentional, but we both have really small class sizes, which I guess I kind of forget that other people have huge class sizes. I work at a relatively small school. So like my AP class this year has 9 kids. Melissa's class of AP has 6. And you know, when we talk with the other coaches and they're like, I've got 30 kids. I'm like, what do you do with 30 kids? And I forget how that works sometimes. But so I think that's definitely a commonality. We both sort of pull, maybe this isn't exactly what you were looking for with the curriculum, but like we both pull from a lot of different places. You know, at the beginning, I think it was because Melissa, like you said, you were trying to find like sort of what works for you. And she had been doing a lot of self-paced stuff and was trying to get away from that, which I love. And for me, I just sort of do things in a weird order. I do objects first, which a lot of curriculums don't do. So we've really, at least I've really enjoyed sharing resources, like, oh, what did you find on this? What did you find on that? So, oh, and I teach at an all-girls school. And like we said, Melissa was trying to increase the engagement of her female student, and just getting female students sort of into her program is, I know, a dream of hers.
My class is all boys, hers is all girls, you know. I agree. I mean, I pull curriculum from all over the place because I've had so many different micro trainings, and I'm like, this isn't working. I need something else right now. We're both in a, no, Indiana's pretty central. I have no idea.
It is quite okay.
Both states end with an A.
That's true. It's true. So there's always something in common, which is great. Okay, let's see. Were there any other questions? I did see a question about stipends. We will get to that again in a second. We're going to share how you can get involved one more time before we wrap up. So if that was a question of yours, stick around just another moment. Are there any other questions from the audience for our panelists tonight?
Yeah, coach, whoever is gonna be applied for the coach cannot be a coachee as well, right?
Not
As is,
We currently have people participating either as a coach or a coachee. So
Yeah,
we would
gotcha.
probably, we'd probably have you decide which side you'd be interested in starting as. We definitely would encourage people to try out being a coach, and then you could always decide the following year that you'd be interested in going out to be a, or other way around, to start out as a coachee, sorry. And then you could go.
I understand, because in the drop down I saw both. That makes I was like, I'm a little bit confused. How?
Oh, we have a both option.
Yeah. Already.
Pauline, do you want to speak to that at all? I forgot we had that both option in there.
Oh, I'm not sure where this might be, but is it maybe from the context that you might be interested in either one?
Yeah, I mean, before we sign up, right? I mean, into the Zoom class, there was a form that you have given for us to fill it out. And under which I saw, like, I mean, you want to be a coachee, one-on-one coach, right? And then I saw you both. What was that intended behind? That's what my question here is.
Okay, yeah, so that would be, are you interested in either one, right? So if you're interested in both of them, we would have a conversation with you, or talk more now, like as you're seeing tonight, you can see which one you might be leaning towards more. But there are some folks that have come and said, well, I could be a coach, but I could also be a coachee. I'm interested in learning more about both. Can you tell me about both so I can make a decision and determine which one I want to lean towards applying for?
Yeah, makes sense. I got you.
Any other questions? All right, I am going to pull up my screen again, do another screen share here, and we are just going to remind you again about how to get involved. So you have some time here. We're going to stick around for a few more minutes. Time for you to take the next step. We want you to sign up. Hopefully you are feeling like this is something you might want to be involved in, and maybe the panelists said something that was convincing tonight if you were on the fence. Again, you can be become a coach or coachee. And there's a stipend for participating. Coaches have a $5,700 stipend for participating, because it is a significantly larger commitment. There's a summer PD, there's academic year monthly meetings, and then all of the cycles that you are leading your coachee through. A coachee receives a $750 stipend for completing all of the research components that we have. And I believe everybody this year received a swivel kit. So we ask you to do some classroom observations by recording your teaching. So you kind of like, we loan out the swivel kits to you and you get that for the academic year. It's a cool little tool, cool little robot to help you record your classroom teaching, and you get to upload your videos and interact with your coach online through the platform. So again, we kind of loan those out to you for the year, and then you would get them when you would return them to us and submit all of your research components for up to $750 for a stipend. I put the link into the chat, cscoachingforequity.org/get-involved. We currently have the applications up. You can apply to be a Minnesota coach, a National Center for Computer Science education coach, or national coach. And then there's one single coachee application. So whether you, no matter where you're located, there's one coachee application. We're planning to review applications on a rolling basis starting in April. And we would be identifying coaches and coachees again on a monthly basis. And coachees would start in August of 2023, and would be in the program all the way through the end of the 2023-2024 academic year. For the center, we are specifically looking for teachers to be coachees, to receive coaching, that are teaching APCS. So if you're teaching an APCS course specifically, and you're located anywhere in the US, we would love to have you apply. We're looking for teachers with less than, ideally less than 3 years of CS teaching experience, but we did open that up a bit more this year, and we realized, like Kyle was saying, as a more experienced teacher, we wanted to allow you to also be coachees. So we did open that up, but we did have kind of priority given to those who were really newer to teaching computer science for applications. And then for Minnesota, it was just teaching high school CS in the next academic year and be located in Minnesota. Awesome. So we do have an exit survey for you. I'm going to pop that into the chat. We'd love for you to fill that out. And I want to give a huge thank you again to our coaches and coachees that served on the panel tonight. We appreciate you sharing your input and thoughts and engaging in the discussion tonight. And thank you to all of our attendees. I will be sticking around for the next few minutes or so if anybody else has questions. Let's see, Andrea, I just see a question. So when is the summer PD for coaches? Are we allowed to say that on recording?
We can tentatively say we are tentatively planning for the last week of July, and just are finalizing some details there. So hopefully that works out with your summer school schedule. We know that summer schedules are really challenging, but that's our plan, the last week of July.
Second to last week, right, Andrea?
Pauline, I'm looking at the exit and I'm not seeing the February 28th date.
I
Ooh,
agree.
thanks, Kyle. Give me 1 second. Oh.
There it is. Thank you.
Okay, so dates for the summer PD is the last full week of July. Yeah. And the question in the chat, would it be remote? Pauline, I'll let you answer that.
We are hoping to have an in-person PD this year for our coaches. Oh my gosh, Michelle, I'm sorry. I saw that face. Yes, we are hoping. We are truly hoping we can bring our coaches face to face this year. And this is still very early in the planning phases. Our goal for those who are interested in being coaches is to notify everyone of plans by the beginning of April. So I understand that folks are trying to plan and get their schedule figured out. By the beginning of April, mid-April at the latest is when we hope to share finalized details, but we are thinking about in person. Awesome.
I believe I'm okay by saying travel is paid for the coaches. So don't think, oh no, I'm out in Oregon and I have to pay for my travel. Nope, that's covered by the grant. So if you do become a coach and we do have the in-person PD, you don't have to worry about those expenses.
Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you all again for joining us tonight. And if you get a chance to complete the form, it's updated now. Sorry about that. At least the February 28th date is there. We'd love to have your feedback. Again, this was a National Center for Computer Science Education sponsored webinar featuring the Coaching for Equity NCS project. Thank you.